Fox. What the fox? Hey guys, Juju and Green here with another episode of Juju Reviews, and today I'm going to be reviewing X-Men Apocalypse. Alright, so X-Men Apocalypse is the 8th film in the X-Men franchise, 9th if you count Deadpool, and it follows the story of, it takes place 10 years after Days of Future Past. Professor Xavier is now running his own school filled with new mutants who are younger. Magneto's off somewhere, he went to hiding since the events of Days of Future Past. Mystique is still carrying on her valiant fight for mutant freedom. All the while, there is this gigantic entity who's a very ancient, powerful mutant from ancient Egypt who's coming back from his ancient slumber to wipe out the world. I mean, what else are you going to do when you wake up from a 100,000-year-long nap? So initially, after seeing the trailers for this movie, I was, when I saw that first trailer, I got a little excited, but as the trailers went on, I got less and less excited. So I would say going into this movie, my excitement level was at probably about a 5.5, maybe a 6. And after not reading, but pretty much checking the Rotten Tomato score and hearing what other people are saying, my favorite reviewers like Chris Stuckman and Schmoes Know, they said that the movie was okay. So I went to this movie with pretty low expectations. And what I gotta say about this movie is that I felt that I was a child whose parents didn't want to deal with him, so they put me in front of SpongeBob SquarePants for about 2 hours, and it kept my attention. It's fine, but I'm an adult. I'm a full-grown man. What I'm saying was, like, I have mixed feelings about this movie, but I'll say I have mixed to negative. And before you even go that, oh my god, you're gonna compare it to the comic books, Julian, it's not like the comic books and the cartoons, Julian. Just stop. I'm not going to do that. I review movies first. I'm going to take it as a entity of film. So that's how strictly I'm going to be reviewing it. I'm going to treat it as if I never heard of these comic books before, and it's just something that I heard about, thought it was cool, and I went to the theater to see it. All right, so here we go. Let's start off with something that I liked. The X-Men in X-Men Apocalypse is phenomenal. I love them in this movie. I like the new introduction of Storm. Her introduction was very well done. How she starts off in Egypt, and it's really cool to see where her origin starts off. I do love Cyclops. Cyclops to me was one of the best things about this movie. The actor is very capable of delivering a character who is very afraid of his powers, but at the same time he's kind of like cocky and arrogant. It's really good to see this other side of Cyclops, where in the previous movies he was just kind of like this whiny punk who always whined about Jean Grey all the time. So I'm excited to see him in future movies and to see how he takes a leadership role in the X-Men. Speaking of Jean Grey is amazing. Sophie Turner from Game of Thrones, and a lot of people know her as Sansa Stark. I think a lot of people are now going to start knowing her as Jean Grey now. She turns in a very, very nuanced, pretty well done performance. She's a character who's kind of like tortured by her powers because she's one of the strongest. She kind of has a good handle on it, but at the same time, she doesn't, and it makes her an outcast, even amongst other outcasts because of it, and it's a really nice wrinkle in this story. Nightcrawler, also well done. Some of the best scenes, in my opinion, were scenes with Nightcrawler, Cyclops, and Jean Grey. To see these younger characters navigate through this world, through this sea of people who hate them, it's really interesting to see, and it's a great setup and jumping off point if you want to start watching these movies and, get into some X-Men. We have some returning characters. We have Beast played by Nicholas Hoult. We have Jennifer Lawrence playing Mystique. We also have James McAvoy also back as Professor Xavier. Now, these characters have been here since First Class, and it's great to see their dynamic kind of like switch over throughout these movies. Beast and Xavier, they're still pretty tight. They're best buds like this. We got Blue Buddy, Cripple Buddy. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Blue Buddy, Wheelie Buddy, and they're hanging out, and everything's all good. They're at the school, they're both professors, everything's fine. Seeing how these characters have grown throughout the time, and seeing their interactions with Mystique, because Mystique is on her own mission to free mutants as well. So to see these people interact and to see how different that their characters have become since First Class is really nice to see, and I really enjoyed the scenes where they're together as well. I think at the core of this story, it's definitely about the different ideologies about how these characters should handle mutants and how to lead other mutants, and I was really intrigued by that prospect. Mystique thinks she needs to go off on her own and pretty much go guerrilla warfare style and free these mutants one by one, sometimes by droves. Professor Xavier thinks that he needs to have a safe haven and teach these people to control those powers, as you all know from previous movies. And that's another thing I like about this movie, is that the themes were very the themes were very profound. And, you know, that's something that the X-Men movies have been doing really well. I mean, the themes of persecution, racism, genocide, things of that sort. And I just love a good superhero movie with deep themes that are tangible to the real world. So in this movie, the main theme is mutants who are now been revealed to the public, who is going to be the one to pretty much represent these mutants and teach humans that mutants aren't all bad. Or if they think that they're good, that there's something to not be feared. And this movie has Easter eggs galore. If you're a fan of the Wolverine movies, if you're a fan of the X-Men movies, if you're a fan of cartoons, comic books, there's a lot to unpack in this thing. There's a lot of treats, there's a lot of Easter eggs. I'm not going to spoil what, but a couple times I would just kind of like giggle and just say, ha, to the guy next to me, just like, ah, that's great. And come on. Magneto. Magneto is obviously played by Michael Fassbender. Michael Fassbender turns in another good role. You would think that after the third time playing him, he would probably be doing the same thing at this point, but he actually brings something new to the character, a side that we really haven't seen before. He brings a more human side to Magneto that hasn't really been touched on in these movies. And it really asks the question of, can Magneto go back to the way he used to be? And if he can, then what's something that's going to put him over the edge of becoming the evil Magneto again? Because remember, this is set in the past, so we still have to have evil Brotherhood of Evil Magneto. So it's only a matter of time before you find out how he's going to get there. But like I said, Michael Fassbender, like, he honestly has one of the best character arcs in the whole thing, as he's done throughout this entire series. And I just want Michael Fassbender to play him forever. No offense to Ian McKellen. You are a great Magneto. It's just that man. Good job. All right, now I'll talk about what I didn't like. So let's do it. All right, so first act of this movie is very, very slow. It's like super slow. Like, it's just la-di-da. It's a bunch of catch-up. And by la-di-da, I mean it's like la-di-da. You see Professor Xavier, he's having a good time at his school. Then you catch up with Mystique, and she's fighting for mutants. And then you run all the way over here. You see what Magneto's doing. And then all the while, you also have to set up the one and only Apocalypse. In Apocalypse, you know, he's gathering the followers, the Four Horsemen, who we know that are Psylocke, Angel, Magneto, and Storm. So it's a lot to kind of unfollow, and a lot of these characters are in different places in the world, and, you know, it just kind of feels like it's jumping around too much, where since they have to be in certain places, that it just feels like it's like, okay, we're here, and now we got to go here. And they don't really spend enough time for things to resonate, you know. It's really like kind of jarring every time he goes to the next scene. Not saying that the editing is terrible, but it just kind of like took me out of it for a little bit. I wanted a little bit more time in certain scenes. All right, my major gripe, you know, I don't know what it is about these movies where this side is like kind of fighting the other side, but it seems like, you know, with Batman vs. Superman and with this movie, it seems like they spent a lot of time developing one where they didn't really develop the other. And, you know, a lot of marketing is surrounding the Four Horsemen, the characters that I mentioned just a little bit earlier. The Four Horsemen are basically non-factors. They're like a biker gang. They're there to make the leader look cool. Because a lot of time with Apocalypse in the first act, which is why it's really slow, it's just pretty much him finding these mutants and pretty much imbuing them and amplifying their powers so that they are pretty much godlike, just like him. And when he does it, like, we don't really get to see a lot of that power. He just kind of like puts his hand on their chin and they just kind of like, oh, I have ultimate power, but you won't see it yet. You know, that kind of bummed me out, because a lot of time when Apocalypse goes places, his Four Horsemen are just behind them. With the exception of Magneto, they're just after the introduction of Storm, they're just there, just to look cool. I mean, a couple times you just see them just in the background, just kind of like, everything they build will fall. A lot of times I would find myself looking at the screen and saying, do something. Do something. There's like little to no character development on Angel's side or Psylocke's side. Literally, they're just there. Like, I can count on both my hands, maybe a pinky toe, how many lines they have between them. Without spoiler, I'll tell you the lines right now. Here's a script read for Ben Hardy playing Angel. Fight me, or they will kill us both. Piss off. You have nothing I want. You know him? Now let's do Psylocke. You okay? I know what mutants you are looking for, and I know where to find them. Split them up. I didn't know he was like this. Let's get out of here. That's them. That's them. Like, okay. Another thing that really like kind of like bummed me out was that the fight choreography was not as on point as it was on Days of Future Past. I mean, we got a bunch of amazing set pieces in the previous movie that you only thought that they were going to up the ante in this movie. You saw my reviews on trailers. Like I said, that I was really excited for these one-on-one battles and all these fight scenes and everything looked bigger. Well, apparently it didn't look bigger. It looked kind of smaller because in a lot of fight scenes, it's kind of like close quarter where you don't really know what's going on. You saw in the trailers that there's a fight scene between Nightcrawler and Angel, and you would think that would be a cool fight scene because of the teleportation and the wings, but it's so close quarter that I didn't know who was winning at one point. I didn't even know if they were fighting. And it's just a major letdown to see that, something that was on a so high can only get bigger, but to see that in the follow-up it gets smaller, it just kind of bummed me out. Now let's talk about the main bad guy. I did not like Apocalypse. I mean, I liked Oscar Isaac's performance. I appreciate what he tried to do in the role. Yes, he's menacing. Yes, he's ominous. But he is the basic bad guy plot. He has the basic bad guy plot. He wants to take over the world. That's the first thing you think of when you think of supervillains, and that's what he wants to do. Why? Because he's better than them? I mean, I think at one point he literally says that I'm going to destroy everything, and when the strong are alive, not saying that, you're going to survive, but if the strong are alive, then they'll be happy to be there. I'm just kind of like, I kind of want more than that, but okay. And there's really not a lot of development on Apocalypse's side. Yes, he's this entity who's very powerful and he wants to destroy the world. But as a character, he's just kind of meh. And I think what this highlights is that some characters from comic book or cartoon to the big screen, it just doesn't work. And I'm not, like I said, I haven't compared it to the comic books at all, but I'm doing this for the sake of explaining this character. Apocalypse is a guy who is just there for the X-Men to beat up. And if they find, it's very happy to see it. It makes you happy to see that they found a way to take down this guy. Whereas in this movie, you want a little bit more character development. You want to know who he is. You want to see what makes him tick. I didn't know what makes him tick. And I thought that a flashback a little bit further than what we actually got, showing like how he became the first mutant, or maybe him learning his powers a little bit, maybe just a little bit of who he was with emotion and range, and that would maybe give us a little bit more insight into who he was. They just told us how his physical being got there. And they spent so much time talking about how he got there, they didn't tell us who he was, and that kind of hurt his character for me. In the climax, I thought this movie would be kind of saved by the climax, but I mean, it's fine. The climax, there's some moments that I really like, but there's also more moments that didn't really do it for me. I mean, the X-Men get there, and then they fight a bit. It's a bit. And then it's like the basic, what's going to happen formula in a climax fight. Good guys get there, they fight, they begin to lose, and then something happened that turns the tide of the whole fight. Not saying that, a character flies in and saves everybody, but it's like when one character starts kicking butt, everyone starts kicking butt magically because plot. In terms of the climax resolution, it was just kind of like solved very easily for me. Like, it kind of made me think like, well, why didn't anyone mention this earlier? Why didn't you just do it earlier? All right, one of my final notes is that if you have seen the trailers, or if you were avoiding seeing the trailers, then there was a spoiler that was released, and it was a certain character that made a cameo. Now, how do I feel about that cameo? I'm just going to say that it is on par with the Batman vs. Superman emails, but because he interacted with characters, I will give it a pass. That's all I'm going to say. At the end of the day, the X-Men franchise was built on, the difference between the MCU from Disney and the DC is that MCU has built themselves on being pretty much escapism and happy, quirky comic book fun. It emphasizes a lot of fun. DC is that dark, gritty, serious nature. Whereas X-Men kind of like straddles that middle ground where it's a little bit of fun, but at the same time, like, its roots are something that's very deep, and it's pretty much pulled from something real, civil rights. That to me is what made X-Men one of the best superhero properties out there, because it was something that you can actually relate to, something that can be pulled into the real world or pulled out of it. But with Apocalypse, it kind of like throws all that out the window. It just becomes this big cartoon, and it was just explosions, madness, power. I guess if they're gonna go this direction with the rest of the movies, I guess I'll be okay with that. Like I said, I'm excited to see where Cyclops and all these other characters go, but in terms of like it being the conclusion of the First Class trilogy, which was grounded in realism, it just kind of like hurt it for me. Now, X-Men Apocalypse is not a super terrible movie. I don't necessarily like it, but it's not a terrible movie. It's still pretty good. It's the best movie you could put on in the background. You could walk out, come back in. Hey, that's pretty cool. Go make a sandwich. Oh, I like that. Go change your oil. Okay. That part's pretty cool too. But in terms of watching it all the way through, like, I don't think it has that rewatchability value. And that's a big thing for me when it comes to movies, rewatchability. But as like, you know, comic book fun, escapism, if you like the cartoons, if you like the movies, if you're already invested in these characters, definitely it's worth a watch. All right, guys, so X-Men Apocalypse. If you've seen it, comment down there, let me know, and tell me, like, which, like, if you have a... Yes, Nana? Pizza Man is here. Alrighty. Pizza Man is here. Did you hear me? Yes, Nana? And if you want, then rank all your favorite X-Men movies. Tell me what's your favorite X-Men movie out of the bunch. And if you want to put Deadpool, he's welcome too. Deadpool is always welcome. So until then, guys, just remember, I'm just a dude in his room talking to a camera. I love you, and I'm out.